Hello Kickstarters, I'm Jay Obernolte, President and Founder of Farsight Studios, and we're here in our offices in beautiful Big Bear Lake, California. Farsight Studios is a developer of console video games. We currently develop for the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, the PS Vita, the Wii U, iPhones, iPads, Android phones and tablets, the new Ouya platform, Amazon Kindle Fire, as well as PC, Macintosh, and a couple of new platforms I can't talk about yet. Our current product is called the Pinball Arcade. We have licenses from the manufacturers of historical pinball tables like this one, Williams, Bally, Gottlieb, and Stern, to take their tables and recreate them in digital format on devices like this iPad. We've digitized about 18 of these pinball tables so far, and the process that we've developed to do that digitization is very intricate. We start by acquiring the original pinball table on the open market. We then restore it to as close as we can possibly get to its original condition. The reason why we do this is that we're going to tune our digital version to play exactly like the version of the table that we have. And we want our digital version to play like a brand new table. We don't want it to play like a beat up old table. After the table's been restored, we take digital photographs of it from every possible angle. We then take it apart and model each of the components in 3 dimensions. We want every piece in the game to be modeled and look exactly like it does in real life. The end result of this is a 3-dimensional model of the original table running on our target device. After we have the visual representation correct, we move on to the programming. We've created ROM Emulation Technology that allows us to run the same program that controlled this pinball table on our target devices. These tables are controlled by a computer that lives behind the back glass on a circuit board. We can take that same computer program that controls all of the things that go on this table and run it on something like this iPhone. Pretty amazing when you think about it, that this little phone can emulate everything that's going on this huge machine, but it's true, modern technology makes it possible. So what that means is that everything is exactly recreated. Every light sequence is exactly right, every sound effect is exactly right, everything that goes on this dot-mation display is exactly right, all the rule set is exactly the same as it was in the original table. In fact, it's so exact that one of the problems that we have is that we discover bugs in the table that were present on the original table that sometimes are also present in our game, and occasionally we have to go into the original table code and fix those bugs. So why are we doing this? The reason is that we are really passionate about pinball, and we have a concern. These tables are disappearing. They're really complicated, they're expensive, they're difficult to maintain. So the chances that you will walk into a bowling alley or an arcade the way that I remember walking into them when I was a kid and be able to play one of these tables is diminishing. And in our children's generation and their children's generation, you won't be able to find these tables anymore. They're very complicated and difficult to keep running. Each one of these tables has literally miles of wire, hundreds of moving parts, hundreds of lights. Keeping all of this working at the same time is very difficult. So I have a fear that our children and their children are not going to know how great pinball was. They're not going to understand the impact that pinball had on the culture of our generation. We don't want that to happen. So we see the Pinball Arcade as a digital virtual museum preserving these tables so that you can go in and play a table and experience exactly what it was like to play that table when it was new. So our mission is to preserve all of the really historically significant pinball tables in digital form in the Pinball Arcade so that they'll be available for future generations to appreciate and enjoy. Which brings me to this table. This is the Terminator 2 by Williams. It was manufactured first in 1991 and has a number of very significant firsts in pinball history. For starters, it was one of the most produced tables of all time. Over 18,000 units of this table were produced, which is quite a lot for a pinball table. Also, there were a number of very significant firsts for this table. It was the very first table designed around a dot-mation display. It was also the very first pinball table to incorporate a video playback mode in the dot-mation display. That was because of the movie license. It was the first table to feature a ball-firing cannon. This table was designed by a legendary pinball designer, Steve Ritchie. Steve Ritchie also designed the Getaway, High Speed, F-14, Star Trek The Next Generation. Lots of very significant pinball tables. Fantastic designer, one of my favorites. I myself have a very personal, emotional connection to this pinball table. When we first started doing pinball emulation at Farsight, we were working with a man named Tim Arnold in Las Vegas. Tim has the largest pinball collection in the world. It's now housed in a museum in Las Vegas called the Pinball Hall of Fame. Now, we were working with Tim before he had the museum, but he housed his collection in a big aluminum aircraft Quonset hut in his backyard. So we went out to Las Vegas to take video capture of some of the tables that we wanted to emulate. And we went out there in August, which was a very unfortunate choice. So everyone was sweating, everyone was miserable. But I remember that he had a T2 table set up next to the Gottlieb tables that we were emulating. And I could not stop playing it. This table is what made me fall in love with pinball. We would love to digitize the Terminator 2 pinball table and add it to the Pinball Arcade. But we have a problem, and that problem is the licenses that are attached to this table. This table obviously has a license from the Terminator 2 movie, and also has a license from Arnold Schwarzenegger, because his voice and his likeness are all over the playfield. We can't digitize this table legally without both of those licenses. And those licenses are unfortunately very expensive. When we add up the costs of the Terminator license, the Arnold Schwarzenegger license, the Williams license, and we add the cost of digitizing the table and bringing it to market, this would be the most expensive pinball table we've ever emulated. And that's contrary to what we're trying to accomplish. Our goal with the Pinball Arcade is to bring the joy of pinball to the masses, and we're succeeding. Last year, the Pinball Arcade was downloaded over 7 million times. It was X-Play's Mobile Game of the Year, and it made PC Magazine's list of the top games of 2012. So here's where you come in. If we can raise enough money through Kickstarter to fund just the cost of the licenses, the Terminator license and the Arnold Schwarzenegger license, we will be able to digitize the Terminator 2 pinball table and preserve it in the Pinball Arcade. I know that if people have the opportunity to play this table, they're going to realize why it had such a significant impact on the history of pinball. They're going to have the same emotional connection to it that I did that day at the Pinball Hall of Fame, and they're going to fall in love with it the same way that I did. So please help us preserve this table and make this project a reality.